we're going to start at page 104, even though we already went past that last week. We're going to start there again where it says, winter always turns to spring. Our attainment of Buddhahood is assured. That is the whole point of this entire Gosho. And again, winter always turns to spring is the Gosho. It starts on page 97 of the Hope-Filled Teachings of Nichiren Daishonin, lecture by Daisaku Ikeda. We read half of it last week. We're studying now on page 104, starting where it says in the second column, winter always turns to spring. Our attainment of Buddhahood is assured. Highlights. Those who uphold the mystic law never fail to become Buddhists. Those who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo have an important mission to help others actualize true happiness. He says, President Ikeda says, those who believe in the Lotus Sutra are as if in winter. Nichiren Daishonin says, before we can welcome spring, we must go through winter. Attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime entails a fierce struggle to change our karma, as well as to overcome the various challenges posed by our practice by the 3 obstacles and 4 devils and the 3 powerful enemies. The trials of winter are unavoidable if we wish to soar into a brilliant springtime based on faith. So everybody understands that what this is saying is that obstacles are assured as you go along the path to the attainment of Buddhahood in your present form. All right? Those who believe in the Lotus Sutra are as if in winter. These are the compassionate words of a strict father, advising us to follow the sure path to attaining Buddhahood by battling and triumphing over all karmic impediments. The way we attain Buddhahood is summed up in the words, winter always turns to spring. Winter turns to spring. It does not become autumn. This is an unchanging principle of nature. In the same way, the Daishonin says, those who uphold the mystic law, the great teaching for gaining enlightenment, will never fail to become Buddhas or remain in the deluded state of an ordinary unenlightened person. As the Buddha promises in the Lotus Sutra, those who hear and embrace the mystic law will all attain Buddhahood without a single exception. This is a universal principle of life. From the Buddha's perspective, everyone has a right to happiness. Everyone has the potential to lead a life brimming with joy. Top of page 106. We who uphold Nichiren Buddhism, moreover, know how to tap the mystic law in our lives by practicing the teaching correctly. All right? That is why we not only have a right to happiness, but we also have an important mission to help others actualize true happiness in their lives as well by serving as their guide, by demonstrating in our own lives that this principle is correct and something that they can achieve themselves. In other words, we have to be the living examples of the theoretical principles that are presented within the Buddhism of the Sowing. Winter always turns to spring means that ordinary people, like all of us, who triumph over all challenges they encounter in the course of their Buddhist practice will definitely become Buddhists, because in reality, that is Buddhahood. What he just described, ordinary people who triumph over all challenges they encounter in the course of their Buddhist practice are Buddhists. Right. Okay, so he says we'll become Buddhists because he doesn't want to make the declarative to freak you out if you can't handle the fact that you are already in that state. His words are a mighty lion's roar, proclaiming that his disciples, whose lives are dedicated to enabling others to awaken to and manifest the Buddhahood that inherently exists within them, cannot fail to attain enlightenment. So what is he actually describing there? Proclaiming that his disciples, who are of the same mind as Nichiren, who function as bodhisattvas of the earth, who function as living extensions of his teaching, they are the ones that cannot fail to attain enlightenment. I'll read it one more time because it sounds like it's just like a freebie. Anybody that joins the Soka Gakkai is going to attain Buddhahood in their present form. Anybody that joins the Soka Gakkai will attain Buddhahood. If you chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo one time, and if you join the Soka Gakkai, I would assume you're going to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo at least once. Once you've done that, you've heard the name and the words of the truth. You've started yourself on the path. You will eventually attain Buddhahood at some point in time in the future. But the attainment in one's present form requires faith to the last moment of one's life, and a continuing process of overcoming difficulties, and a continuing process of teaching others. Okay? If you don't do those other components to what I just said, it doesn't matter if it was for your whole life. You won't really attain Buddhahood until the last moment of your life. Okay? And that's only if you sustain faith until the last moment of your life. So he says, winter always turns to spring means that ordinary people who triumph over all challenges they encounter in the course of their Buddhist practice will definitely become Buddhists, because they already are at that point. His words are a mighty lion's roar, proclaiming that his disciples, those that are of the same mind as Nichiren, whose lives are dedicated to enabling others to awaken to and manifest the Buddhahood that inherently exists within them, which is only done through the teaching of the Buddhism and the sowing. That's the only place that lies, right? So you must be a disciple of Nichiren to do that, right? Cannot fail to attain Buddhahood, enlightenment. The trials of winter bring forth flowers of victory. Only by overcoming trials can we savor victory in life. When striving in faith, the 3 obstacles and 4 devils will arise. Buddhahood is achieved through struggle against such obstacles. Winning comes from challenging ourselves most during the hardest times, confident of victory and the achievement of Kosen Rufu. Now, those are the highlights, but again, from what perspective is President Ikeda writing this and saying those things? Why is he saying those things?
Because himself.
That's right, because he himself has had to endure and persevere and overcome them. So he's really talking about the same steps that his mentor taught him, okay, that he's now teaching us. The mentor's teaching is constantly passed to the disciples who become mentors, who teach as mentors to disciples who become mentors. Do you understand? It's a continuing process. So what he's saying here, he knows through practical and actual experience. The important point here, he continues at the top of the second column on page 106. The important point here is that the joy of spring is made real by the winter that precedes it. Only by overcoming the trials of winter with the power of faith can we come to savor the springtime of victory. What is the springtime of victory that he's talking about there then?
Buddhahood.
Buddhahood. So he's saying, only by overcoming the trials of winter with the power of faith, only by activating the faith that's required to be the Buddha in our present form, can we be the Buddha in our present form. Do you understand that? That's what he said there very clearly. All right. Let us take the example of cherry trees that bloom in spring. This is a wonderful analogy. The flower buds first form in the summer, whether you're aware of that or not, and then enter a period of dormancy in autumn. These buds must go through the cold of winter before they can begin their full-fledged growth toward blossoming, a period known as breaking dormancy. The chill of winter is necessary for the buds' development. The buds, once awakened from their slumber, they were always buds, right? Their original state, right? Okay, their slumber begin to swell further with the rising temperature of spring and eventually flower. Winter can function to awaken inherent power and latent potential. This principle applies to both life and Buddhist practice. All living beings possess the seed of Buddhahood, otherwise known as the Buddha nature. This seed contains potential as vast and boundless as the universe itself in a single moment of life, right? It is awakened from dormancy. It's not created through an acquisition of wisdom. It's created through the revealing of wisdom from a state of dormancy, which means it's already always been there. Do you understand? It's already been alive, even if it isn't in its full manifest state. It is awakened from dormancy and brought to fruition, which would be Buddhahood, right? By faith in the Lotus Sutra, which enables us to surmount the trials of winter, because we have to persevere according to the teachings. We have to follow the teaching. Okay? The teaching is that you will meet adversity, and you must utilize faith for the purpose of overcoming that adversity. That's why that faith is the only way you can achieve Buddhahood in your present form, because it's only that faith that will carry you through those times of adversity. Do you understand? All right, so in other words, it is achieved through our struggles against the obstacles that arise in the course of our Buddhist practice, namely against the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils and the 3 powerful enemies. Why does he not mention our own karma again there? Before he said a page ago, we have to wake up from our karma and the Sancho Shima and the three power and possibly even the three powerful enemies. Now he only mentions Sancho Shima, three obstacles and four devils and the three powerful enemies. Why does he suddenly not talk about our karma as something that we must overcome in order to attain Buddhahood? That's right. Can you say it out loud? Well, you say it for me. Okay. Okay. The point is that, again, once we're on that path, through our practice and faith, what manifests is not bad karma, but three obstacles, four devils, which are still a reflection of karma, but that's not bad karma. That's the karma that comes only when you're in the process of the attainment of Buddhahood, to try and discourage you from the path that has been clearly spelled out with all of its pitfalls and adversity that you're going to have to overcome, right? Okay, so that's why, because you're now practicing as a functional Buddha.
Right.
Do you understand? That's fourth stage, right? So he's saying, we can bring brilliant flowers of victory to bloom in our lives when we weather the hardships of winter. What does that mean? That means we face that adversity and we persevere until we overcome it through faith. Not through dragging our feet and waiting till it changes. By proactively taking measures, steps, daimoku, study, getting guidance, whatever it might be, to win. This is all about winning or losing. You don't win by sustaining 0-0 to the bottom of the ninth inning. That just goes into extra innings. Until you win, there will be extra innings. You understand? It's like baseball, right? If, however, in the midst of life's winters, in the midst of these difficulties, we restrain from the struggle of progressing in faith. We say, hey, it's not working anymore. Or I don't like this. I should be being protected. If we doubt the power of faith and slacken in our Buddhist practice, we will end up with incomplete results at best. That's Daisaku Ikeda saying that as a declarative. Even for cherry trees, it is said, if the period of winter chill required for breaking dormancy is insufficient, the flowering of the buds will be delayed and the blossoms will be irregular. And anybody that's in the fruit business knows this is the case with everything. All right? The key to victory in our lives lies in how hard we struggle when we are in winter. How wisely we use that time. And how meaningfully we live each day confident that spring will definitely come. Now, that's a big loaded paragraph. What did he just really say there? The key to victory in our lives lies in how hard we struggle when we are in winter. What's he saying there? How much we proactively take action toward victory. Not how much we just idly wait for it to change because we believe. Do you understand? If you believe, you don't idly wait for it to change. You attack it. You see it for what it is, and you be the Buddha that you are. And your mission is to reveal that valid, actual proof. Right? The key to victory in our lives is how hard we struggle when we are in winter. How personally we take this issue of, I am a bodhisattva of the earth. I must never be defeated. Period. Period. I didn't do my job. I did not sustain faith until the last moment of my life. If I could be defeated, I must be the living example because I am the disciple. I am of the same mind as Nichiren. That's what President Ikeda is talking about. He's saying, be of the same mind as Nichiren. He says, the key to victory in our lives lies in how hard we struggle when we are in winter. Think of Sado Island. Think of snow coming through the roof. Think of no food, nothing warm to wear, and still tears come down from my face and freeze on my cheeks because I'm so happy about the fact that I'm suffering this thing that's been prophesied in the Lotus Sutra, and my path and my Buddhahood are assured. In that circumstance, the Daishonin's confidence in the teaching that he perceives is that there's no way for him to lose. He says, how wisely we use that time. What does that mean? Right, you can be beaten. You're getting your head beat in, right? He says the key to a victory lies in how hard we struggle when we are in winter.
Right.
Winter is times of difficulty, right? He says how wisely we use that time. What do you do during that time of the difficulty?
You chant more.
You chant more. You study more. You struggle more to understand what it is you must do to change this, to turn this. You don't get depressed. You don't take naps. You don't, crawl into a ball. Okay? You don't become filled with uncertainty. All right?
Yes.
That's right. How wisely we use that time. Okay? The foolish retreat while the wise rejoice. That's what that's talking about. How do we use that time? That's how I attained Buddhahood. When I lost all my money, that got me going. All right? Seriously, that didn't compute. All right? I'd always been so successful. I never had a problem with business. Business was easy to me my whole life. Okay? But that was the only thing that stopped me from continuing on that incorrect thinking path that I was on. So it was my great benefit. But it only came because I wisely used that time to begin reading the Gosho. When you see all these orange everywhere and yellow everywhere, that all came from consternation at that time in my life. Okay? That's when I figured out what the teaching was saying over and over and over again clearly, that was going right over my head. Without using that time wisely, I wouldn't have been able to achieve that. He says, and how meaningfully we live each day, confident that spring will definitely come. What is that talking about then? What is that referring to, George? Faith. 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 The confident, how meaningfully we live each day, confident that spring will come. So even though we don't have the actual proof in front of us with the benefit already materialized, we already know it's coming.
Yes.
We don't even think about it from a perspective of what if it doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay? So that's what he's saying. And how meaningfully we live each day. We live it as the Buddha, confident that we are in the process of revealing that Buddhahood. According to the teaching, that's what we're doing. That's why I rephrased it previously. What he's talking about, that is Buddhahood. He's talking, those whose lives are dedicated to enabling others to awaken to and manifest that Buddhahood inherently exists. That's exactly what that is. That's living 365 days a year that way. Not when you're in a high life condition and everything's going great.
No.
That really kind of doesn't count. Okay? Faith in the Lotus Sutra means bravely. Now, why does it use the word bravely then? Because this is going to scare the shit out of you sometimes.
Right, yes.
You know, when your life's being threatened, or your business is being threatened, or your fief is being threatened to be confiscated, that's what this whole Gosho's about, right? Somebody that was willing to make that ultimate sacrifice and take it to the end of their life and never regret it and never backslide. Is his widow sitting there saying, hey, where's mine? No. She's still worried about Nichiren sending a person that she can't afford to Sato, sending them to Minobu to help him there. It's a constant giving to my mentor. It's a constant support to the Buddha. It's mugi washing. It's doubt-free faith. He says, faith in the Lotus Sutra means bravely making our way through the winters of adversity, which are bound to occur over the course of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of practice. By taking on the arduous, why does he say arduous task of changing our karma?
It's not
Because it's hard as hell.
It's
It's
not
very
easy.
difficult.
Right.
And very few people are actually able to accomplish it, frankly speaking. Many people will understand it theoretically. Very few will actualize it as actual Ichinen Sanzen. And that's what all these lectures are about. Trying to get you to achieve actual Ichinen Sanzen. Okay? So he's saying, we are able to greet the spring by faith in the Lotus Sutra means bravely making our way through the winters of adversity. By taking on the arduous task of changing our karma, going from common mortals to Buddhas, we are able to greet the spring and build happiness and good fortune in our lives. Therefore, we must not avoid the trials of winter. The foolish retreat while the wise rejoice. That's why the wise are rejoicing, because they're saying this is the direct path to Buddhahood in my present form. If we have the courage to face winter's challenges, then we can advance boundlessly toward the wonderful springtime of attaining Buddhahood and achieving Kosen Rufu. Don't forget, until the bright light came over at Tatsunokuchi, Nichiren was anticipating he probably would have his head severed. Do understand that. He knew exactly what had happened when the bright light occurred. He shifted gears and said, hey, come on, finish the job. Right? But until then, he was more than willing. He was like, this is the thing that's making me happiest. I'm going to be able to give my life for the sake of the Lotus Sutra. Not. Okay, Buddhas never died that way. No. No. Buddhas, you can't kill a Buddha. Why? What are the 5 cardinal sins? Kill your mother, kill your father. Okay? Injure a Buddha.
Injure Buddha.
No, kill mom, kill dad. Can't kill a Buddha. Can only injure one. Okay? 4 and 5.
Break unity.
Break unity is the last one. The other one's to kill a prakyeka Buddha, a cause awakened one. All right, so the Lotus Sutra teaches the importance of surmounting life's winters. And Nichiren and the Daishonin assures us winter always turns to spring. Our continuous effort to transform winter into spring is the fundamental path for achieving unsurpassed fulfillment and growth in our lives, which is also the same as Buddhahood. By advancing with all our might on this path, we can open the way to attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime and enjoy a glorious spring-like state of being that will shine with immeasurable good fortune and benefit across the 3 existences of past, present, and future, which is the attainment of Buddhahood in your present form, actual Ichen and Sansen. Continue on page 108. Great ordinary people dedicated to the mystic law. Highlights. Despite loss of their fief, Myoichi and her husband remained steadfast in faith. Ordinary people who always base themselves on faith in the mystic law can enter the eternally abiding state of Buddhahood. And that's it. So what did he just qualify there in those highlights? He's the steadfast faith of Myoichi even in light of great difficulty and personal sacrifice. And then the second thing is that ordinary people who always base themselves on faith. That's the key phrase in that sentence. Ordinary people who always base themselves on faith in the mystic law are in fact already Buddhas. They may not have realized that, but that action and that life state is the state of Buddhahood. Can enter the eternally abiding state of Buddhahood, which means that if they maintain that state throughout their life, to the last moment of their life, they enter the realm of transmigration, in the realm of life and death, in the realm of Buddhahood, right? All right, so continuing on page 108. Those who always base themselves on faith and practice with the spirit of not begrudging one's life are great ordinary people. Okay? Does anybody know where great ordinary people comes from? Yeah, we are. That's exactly what's being described by that. But who coined that phrase? President Ikeda has talked about it on several occasions. President Toda always referred to us as the great ordinary people. Because don't forget, when the Soka Gakkai started after World War II, there weren't too many society successful people that were joined as members. It was mostly the dregs. The people that have difficulties, the people that had diseases, the people that had poverty, the people that were not at the top of the social spectrum. Okay? So those were definitely, in the view of Japanese society, those were very ordinary people, right? Toda was ordinary people. These were all ordinary people. Okay? In a society based on the emperor and all that other crap that goes along with, I shouldn't say, all of that other tradition that goes along with that outlook, okay? So he's saying, in this section, at the top of page 108, Nichiren Daishonin contrasts the efforts of the boy Snow Mountains with those of an ordinary person. He contrasts in that Gosho. Remember he talked about Snow Mountains? It's easy for somebody like a sage to give his life for the sake of the teaching. It's very unusual for somebody like your husband, Myoichi, to have given up his dwelling and his lands. He says he notes that while it may not be all that difficult for a sage-like figure such as Snow Mountains to give his life in the pursuit of eternal truth, it is extremely difficult for an ordinary person to carry out a selfless practice and sacrifice something extremely valuable, as Myoichi's husband did in giving up the fief that was equivalent to his life. Okay, so now who acknowledged this as fact? This point. Nichiren Daishonin. This is not part of the President Ikeda's lecture, although he is lecturing this point. Nichiren is the one that said, damn, what you're doing is really, really hard. It's harder than Snow Mountains did. Okay? There are very few people that are going to be able to do what I have said that they should do. There are few people that will actually be able to follow my teaching the way you have, Myoichi, because Myoichi, you and your husband lived it the way I live it. You understand? So he's saying, accordingly, the Daishonin says there is no difference between the benefit gained by Snow Mountains in offering his life for the law, and you can almost picture that, wow. Man, that's faith. You're going to jump in the mouth of the demon just to hear the other half of the sutra verse. You're a heavy dude. He's saying, no, that's nothing compared to what you and your husband have done. All right? And then the benefit of Myoichi's husband in persevering in faith without begrudging his life is the same thing. Mr. Toda used the phrase, an ordinary person enlightened since time without beginning. What would he be describing? Yes, of course he's describing us. What is that technically saying, though, in that phraseology? An ordinary person enlightened since time without beginning. Who would that be? That would be a bodhisattva of the earth, born in the latter day of the law, as the disciple of the original teacher, born to become a mentor in this lifetime for the sake of Kosen Rufu, for the age of Mappo, the 10,000 years and beyond, right? That means that we're, and by being a bodhisattva of the earth, what does that qualify us as the original disciples of the original teacher, right? So he's saying, in other words, an ordinary person since Kuan-Ganjo, people of the 9 worlds whose predicate of life is based in the 10th world of Kuan-Ganjo. Do you understand? Do you? Okay, good. In other words, ordinary people who dedicate their lives to the mystic law are able to enter the realm of time without beginning. That is the eternally abiding state of Buddhahood. The original state is Buddhahood. Kuan-Ganjo is Buddhahood. There is no beginning to it, right? There is no end to it. Do you understand? Eternally abiding means forever and ever and ever, and Kuan-Ganjo means without beginning. Okay? Myoichi's husband remained steadfast in faith despite losing the fief that he and his family depended on for their livelihood. The infinite benefit he attained as a result of such selfless faith surely meant that on death his life merged into the realm of Buddhahood in the universe, a realm often expressed in the Daishonin's a realm often expressed in the Daishonin's writings as the pure land of Eagle Peak, dwelling freely in a vast and boundless state of life. This is clear in light of his writings. Nichiren also says that from this eternal realm, the husband is always watching over his wife and children and protecting them like the sun and the moon in the heavens. All right, I want to go back and re-emphasize this, though. He says the infinite benefit. He's talking about, that he was willing to give up his fief. Then at the top of page 109, he says, second sentence, the infinite benefit he attained as a result. So what is he talking about? Infinite benefit. What is there that is infinite benefit? The attainment of Buddhahood, because once you do it, then you're always going to attain Buddhahood. So that's the infinite benefit that they're talking about. He attained as a result of such selfless faith, okay, meant that on death his life merged into the realm of Buddhahood in the universe. That would be also true of all of us if we do the same things. It's not a particular special club. You didn't have to be Nichiren's direct disciple for that to be the case. Do you understand? All right, so he says, a realm often expressed in the Daishonin's writings as the pure land of Eagle Peak. It's a state of non-substantiality in the realm of Buddhahood, dwelling freely in a vast and balanced state of life. That's what he's talking about. Okay? This is clear in light of his writings. Nichiren also says that from this eternal realm of birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood, the husband is always watching over his wife and children and protecting them like the sun and the moon in the heavens. All right? And also understand, it's this story of faith that 1800 years, I'm not trying to do the math here, it's a long time since this actually occurred, right? But because it inspired the Daishonin to the point that he personally wrote in reply and demonstrated the events that occurred in this person's life through that correspondence, that person's life is what's encouraging us right now, right? The mentor is teaching us how to view another person's life in the correct manner so that we can view our own life in the correct manner. Do you understand? You may not think you're Snow Mountains. You may not think of yourself as Nichiren Daishonin, but you are an ordinary person of, what did he call it? A great ordinary person. Okay? That's appearing in the realm of the 9 worlds and exiting in the realm of Buddhahood. Do you understand? That's the way all Buddhas make their advent and departure from the Sahe world. All right? He says, it is unmistakable that the husband has attained Buddhahood. So Nichiren's concern is directed instead toward the wife left behind. He warmly tells Myoichi, who is nursing a sick child and struggling amid challenging circumstances, that she has nothing to worry about and that her husband is definitely watching over her from the pure land of Eagle Peak. From these words, we can feel the Daishonin's sincere consideration, embracing Myoichi and her children like a gentle spring breeze. He also assures the lay nun that she need have no doubt whatsoever. All right? I am certain that I am not alone in being deeply moved by the profound compassion of the Daishonin that is evident in these words of encouragement. It is obvious that he ardently wished to bring happiness to mothers and children everywhere, and indeed to all people who were suffering. The warmth of his compassion is truly like the spring sunshine that melts the winter snow. Nichiren sought to praise the staunch faith of both husband and wife and to support the bereaved Myoichi and her family. He wanted these followers who had shared in his travails to advance with hope and pride to the very end and to attain a life state of great victory and appreciation for their Buddhist practice. In that spirit, the Daishonin continues to offer encouragement filled with conviction and compassion. Continuing on page 110, the bond of mentor and disciple are eternal. Highlights, because he just said you're going to establish a state of Kuan, right? Do you get it? That's why it's eternal. Do you understand? All right, so he's saying, highlights, the mentor and disciple bond endures throughout the 3 existences. Throughout the 3 existences. This bond is forged by striving together to overcome great obstacles, to realize Kosen Rufu, widespread propagation of the Buddhism of sowing. The Soka Gakkai is experiencing a springtime of benefit because of all efforts made based on the joint struggle of mentor and disciple. Continuing on page 110, the disciples strive to repay their debt of gratitude to their mentor throughout their lives. I have spent my entire life doing so to Mr. Toda. Myoichi, for her part, sent a servant to be of assistance to Nichiren Daishonin as well as the offering of the robe mentioned in this writing. In response, the Daishonin says to this mother, who was dedicated to Kosen Rufu and who had withstood great hardships together with him, that he will devote himself to repaying his debt of gratitude to her, and not only in this lifetime, but also in the next. and that he will watch over her young children in the event something should happen to her. His words embrace, the entire family with their warmth. Nothing is more fortunate than having a teacher or mentor in Buddhism. Daisaku Ikeda says that as a declarative. Nothing is more fortunate than having a teacher or mentor in Buddhism. No communication is more heartfelt than that shared within the beautiful realm of mentor and disciple and of fellow practitioners who dedicate their lives to the mystic law. The mentor-disciple bond endures across the three existences. This eternal bond is forged by disciples striving together with the mentor to overcome great obstacles and working to realize Kosen-rufu. That is, by waging a struggle to overcome the trials of winter. Does everybody understand what he just said? Everybody becoming Buddhists as living beings. Okay? Not in your next life. I don't know what you're going to do in your next life. Do you?
No.
Okay? So while we have control over this one, we achieve it now.
Yes.
In February 1951, Mr. Toda's businesses were in a dire situation. And if they hadn't been, I wouldn't have known what to do when mine became in the same state. No, this is the truth. This fact is what allowed me to maintain Mugiwashi when everything was going to shit. And I was chanting Daimoku with great sincerity. And I was not seeing winter turn into spring. I was seeing everything get worse and worse and worse. Okay? But what did that make me do? It made me go, how could this be? How could this be? How could this be? But I've always been cool. I've always gotten my way. Why is it so? Why is it so? Better reread what I think I already know. Okay? Because I guarantee you, many people in the first 20 years of their practice, they read a Gosho once, they think they read that Gosho. I've already told you, I won't say again, how many times I've read all of these things. Or how many times you have to read it before you don't get something new with that next reading. Okay, so he's saying, where am I? In 1951, Mr. Toda's businesses were in a dire situation, gazing at some fresh shoots that had sprung up from the earth in a corner of the tinier garden outside his frugal office, and I can just imagine that. My mentor remarked, "Spring is here at last. When spring comes, fresh life force like this issues forth. Winter always turns to spring. Faith in the Lotus Sutra is like winter in that respect." Around that time, I wrote in my diary, this is Daisaku Ikeda as a 19, 20-year-old guy, "Spring. Spring will soon arrive. A season aglow with hope. My passion and great conviction will grow like the trees and grass. Youth, arise. Youth, advance. Youth, move. Onward, ever onward, unafraid of towering precipices or raging waves." He continues, "Now Mr. Toda and the Gakkai are being slandered and maliciously spoken ill of because they were filled with poor, sick people that were the underbelly of society. But a profound emotion wells up from deep within my heart. Just let them see us after 10 or 20 years, after we have grown." Pardon me. "With that spirit, I have built the Soka Gakkai into the organization that it is today." And that's not arrogance. That's just a statement of saying to you, the same attitude will prevail in your life if you have this attitude now. Okay? That's what he's saying. He's not saying, I'm just the greatest, aren't I? He's saying, I can do it. You can too. If I have done it, you must do so. Because I've proven that it's not impossible. Then what is going to be your excuse? You'll have none. Remember that. Because I have lived my life based on the spirit of the oneness of mentor and disciple, I can now welcome, along with Mr. Toda, who lives on in my heart, the spring of worldwide Kosen-rufu. Today, people everywhere have high praise and expectations for our efforts. We have triumphed through all, and the SGI is enjoying a glorious springtime of benefit with Innumerable capable people proudly blooming in communities around the globe. What's he talking about there? Disciples becoming mentors. Disciples becoming mentors. If there's confusion about the mentor and disciple that is Daisaku Ikeda and the rest of us, and that's a static thing, he just qualified it right there that it isn't. That's a misrepresentation of what he's been talking about from day one. Okay? From day one, he's never been talking about me and you guys. No. He says again, we have triumphed through all, and the SGI is enjoying a glorious springtime of benefit with innumerable, capable people proudly blooming. What is blooming? Demonstrating actual Ichinen Sanzen. That's blooming. All right? In communities around the globe. Becoming the mentors to those around them, teaching them the correct path of faith and correct faith. Now, as we embark on the second act of Kosen Rufu, what's the second act of Kosen Rufu? I already told you this. There's no definition of that, but I guarantee you I know what I'm talking about when I say, what's the second act of Kosen Rufu? When all of us as disciples of the first three presidents all actualize their spirit and capabilities in our own lives and become mentors ourselves. That's the second act. The second act is for the disciples to take the vow of the mentor, to uphold it, and to achieve the mentor's vow. He just said that a minute ago, didn't he? Yeah, okay, so now as we embark on the second act of Kosen Rufu, leading figures in all spheres of endeavor are keenly watching our movement, which heralds the start of a new springtime for humanity. They are placing great hopes on our efforts as a bright force for change, moving humanity away from a winter of war and misery toward a springtime of peace and happiness for all. With confidence and good cheer, with joy and vitality, let us tell others about this great philosophy of hope that is summed up in the words, winter always turns to spring. Let us illuminate humanity with the light of compassion and wisdom of Nichiren Buddhism, and thereby usher in the spring of peace, the spring of culture, and the spring of an age of humanity. He ends with a little riff of himself. Around the world, the sun rises brightly, the mystic law, the key to radiant happiness. Okay? The end, page 112. We start next time on the Dragon Gate as the next Go Show. Now, I knew that we would have a little extra time this week. And so, we also got another question from Mr. Lee,
Yes.
who evidently liked our last answer well enough to now spring Zen on me. So, let me clarify what Mr. Lee asked first, if I can find my phone here. All right, here it is. Mr. Lee asked on Facebook, and Mr. Lee, I apologize, I don't do Facebook. This was cut and pasted to me. He says, heard of the 3,000 realms all exist in a single moment of life, and we're already Buddhas within us. Kind of sounds parallel, except the 3,000 realms with the Zen or chant, don't you reckon? I'm not sure. Or with chanting, don't you agree? I think is what he might be saying here. To support that claim, the sixth patriarch, Hui Ning of the Zen school, who was the last patriarch of actually, he wasn't the last patriarch. He was the patriarch that was split. I can read you all that. He was last patriarch who said a positive thing about the Lotus Sutra when he was exchanging communication with a monk, I guess, named Fatah in his book, The Platform Sutra. And another confusing part is Bodhidharma had a nun disciple who only recited and practiced the Lotus Sutra, so whether these to be brought up as questions to be analyzed. Your video already said about the Pure Land school, how about the Zen school? If Nichiren met Hui Ning, would Nichiren have a different opinion toward the Zen school than ridiculing the school? Are there similarities between these two, the Zen and Nichiren? Had Nichiren wrote about Hui Ning I'm posting this so to know your perspective about these two Zen, then the relationship with Nichiren. He says, wouldn't we want all the Nichiren sects to investigate this? And I said no. As a very short answer, I asked Sling to post this. It says no, because Nichiren already left strict instructions as to the only way to view the other sects based on Buddhism of the Harvest Sutras. This is latter day of the law. Read the 4 dictums in the dictionary. So I'll go much farther than that since I have a chance to right now with you, Mr. Lee. Number one, considering are there similarities between these two Zen and Nichiren? Absolutely none. What I'm going to say is going to sound really harsh, okay? Because last week I just told you about, he never said anything bad about Amida. And I can read you, I even have the Lotus Sutra marked here in the 7th chapter where Amida is actually already mentioned in the Lotus Sutra. So he took the vow. I can read you that, Mr. Lee, as I said last week. Look on page 171 and 172 of the Lotus Sutra, the threefold Lotus Sutra. That's where you'll see where Amida took the vow, okay, to uphold the Lotus Sutra in the latter day. All right? So that's why there's a problem with Nimbutsu. And that's what we were specifically talking about then. And I also mentioned Shantao as something to do with true word. I had it confused with Shanmue. Shantao is the guy that Honen was the Nimbutsu guy. But at any rate, as far as Zen is concerned, Nichiren is probably as critical of Zen as he is of anything. As a matter of fact, in the 4 dictums, he says that Zen is the work of the heavenly devil. And the reason that he does, and the reason there is no similarity and that they have nothing in common, is that Bodhidharma basically made up Zen. Bodhidharma basically says that the truth of Shakyamuni's teachings are all contained with a transmission that occurs from mind to mind, from the Zen master to the student, that's outside the realm of the sutras. Okay, so Zen is not based on the sutras of Shakyamuni. Definitely the Buddhism of the sowing is based on the teachings that preceded it in the Lotus Sutra. Okay, so to practice Zen is to not practice in accord with the Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings, number one. Is to practice in accord with Bodhidharma's interpretation. All right? And Bodhidharma's interpretation, according to Nichiren, was as incorrect as Honen's was for Nimbutsu. All right? So now I'll go into all the things that validate that perspective. Number one, let me go here. You need to go to, to qualify a quick answer to your question, you need to be able to get into www.sgi.org. Okay? And when you get in there, you're going to see a big purplish blue page, and it's going to say reference resource or resource materials. Go to where it says study materials. That's where you'll find an online version of Volume 2, of Volume 1, of the dictionary I'm going to refer to, of the Threefold Lotus Sutra. So all of these relevant reference materials for answering your questions are already there. As I answer your questions and you have more, ask me, but you got to read this or you're not going to understand it. I'm not going to sit here in a 60-second or 2-minute video and explain to you the profundity and the differences between the Daishonin's teachings and Zen. But if you want to know why, so first of all, Nichiren says there's nothing in common, and he's very down on Zen, and he's very down on Zen because Zen is not based on the teachings of Shakyamuni. It's based on an interpretation of an event by Bodhidharma, and I'm sure you already know that. Okay, but if you go to the writings of Nichiren Daishonin, as it's on that website that I just mentioned, you'll see a volume 1 of his writings and a volume 2. The volume 2 contains more of the technical goshos, the technical writings that delineate the differences in theology, if you will, versus faith and practice, which is what volume 1 really focuses on. So if you go to volume 2, and right from the very beginning, the first 2 goshos are going to slam the hell out of Zen. Okay, letter de Rinjo is a slam like hell against Zen. And the next one is question and answers on the various schools. That's going to toast everybody, okay? And then if you want to really get into a question and answer on a blow-by-blow of why I have the 4 dictums and why I said the 4 dictums, which is, Nimbutsu leads to the hell of incessant suffering, and Zen is the work of the heavenly devil, and precepts is the traitor to the nation, and something else which I can't remember right now. There's 4 of them. Go look up the 4 dictums in the dictionary, and I have all this here. That's why I don't know why I need that. Okay, but the other gosho you would want to, if you want to find out why the Daishonin is down on Nimbutsu, why he's down on Zen, why he's down on precepts, and why he's down on true word. What is true word? It's I can't think of the Japanese sect that true word is. Shingon. Okay, so he's down on Shingon, Nimbutsu, Zen, and precept school. And he qualifies all of that in dialogues for a quick victory. This is like, to my disciples, if you want to kick people's ass in debate in about 30 seconds, just memorize these questions and answers. And this will leave anybody from the other school speechless in a matter of minutes. Okay? So, that's what you need to look into, Mr. Lee, if you want your real answer. No, everything you asked, no. So, Hui Ning. Let's go, first of all, real quick, I want to tell you guys, do you guys all know who Bodhidharma is?
达摩祖师.
Do you know who Bodhidharma? Okay,
Yeah.
Bodhidharma created Zen.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
in the
yes.
Zen school. He's the founder of Chinese Zen. So Bodhidharma's, there is no Indian Zen.
No.
No.
Okay?
No.
So this is not based on Shakyamuni's teachings. All right?
Mm.
All right? This is when you in the last thing you talked about mental masturbation, that's what Zen is. Zen is mental masturbation. Zen is predicated, like the other schools, on what they're really looking for, and what they're trying to achieve is acquired enlightenment. And we don't do acquired enlightenment in the Buddhism of the sowing. We're trying to achieve original enlightenment. Okay? So I'm going to start out by reading to you what is the difference. If you guys already know Bodhidharma, I won't get into Bodhidharma's stuff. First of all, almost none of this is anything to do with Bodhidharma is capable of being doctrinally validated. Okay, so much of his life is all just myth and mystery. It's all just stories of Bodhidharma. There's no real proof that any of that occurred. But if you go to the 18th vow, the 18th vow was, I think, had to do with Zen school. Hang on. Inherent enlightenment. Let me check. Inherent enlightenment. You go to the dictionary and you look under I. This is posted against acquired enlightenment. It's very important for you to understand this, because many people, when we start practicing the Daishonin Buddhism, we talk about enlightenment and Buddhahood, they don't really understand that there's a difference in what we're discussing, and that we're not talking about what is really talking about this vast state of wisdom that comes from many years of study. Okay? Like Bodhidharma supposedly meditated in front of a wall for 9 years. How many people did he help in that 9 years?
Nobody.
You know, and
Yes.
who do you really think sat for 9 years in front of a wall? I'm not saying he didn't. It's just really hard for me to grasp what you could get from that. Okay? So again, also original enlightenment, or depending on the context, originally enlightened or eternally enlightened. Enlightenment or Buddhahood that is originally inherent in human life. The original state. That's what we're talking about. Okay? Often used as an equivalent of the Buddha nature. We were just talking about a minute ago. The concept of inherent or original enlightenment is contrasted with acquired enlightenment, called shikaku in Japanese terms. The view that enlightenment occurs as a result of carrying out Buddhist practice, dispelling illusions, and developing wisdom. Because the enlightenment that I'm talking about happens in a moment. Okay? It happens in an instant. It's a moment of realization. All right? Based on the teaching, not based on the interpretation of somebody that now says, I have to have a master. You can never attain Buddhahood as a Zen practitioner without a Zen master that you're devoted to, okay? That lets you in on stuff that you need to know, that only the master can teach you and guide you. And that's not, all of this is open source. You know, you can get all of this on the internet. None of anything that I'm talking about is like a closed kind of, don't want anybody that's not already on my team to hear me talk because I'm afraid they might tell other people what I say. No, I could give a shit. It says, the concept of inherent or original enlightenment is contrasted with acquired enlightenment, the view that enlightenment occurs as a result of carrying out Buddhist practice, dispelling illusions, and developing wisdom. In the Tendai school of Japan, the doctrine of inherent or original enlightenment was taken to the extreme with the argument that ordinary people are already Buddhists even before engaging in Buddhist practice, and that the world as it is equals the world of enlightenment, which is not what I've said at all. Critics assert that this view led to complacency in Buddhist practice. All right, so do you understand the point that I was making? We're not going for an accumulation of wisdom of technical information. We're going for a realization of the original state, which comes from manifesting that state from within by chanting the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra, which is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. All right? And I think that I've pretty much already said that, what I have to say, other than to say again to Mr. Lee, if you'll go to this Gosho, Dialogues for Quick Victory on page 396, it will answer everything that you just asked. Okay? So, with that, I will say thank you for everyone's time again this evening and this week, and I look forward to next week. And next week is our 100th video. We're going to turn off the cameras and maybe decide to do something a little different. We'll find out based on that conversation. We'll see you all next week, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you.